Good morning. I am Kim Brandt, Superintendent in MSAD 52, and I'm communicating with you today about our plans to increase in-person time for some, but not all students. MSAD 52 exists to support our students in their academic learning and their social emotional well-being. So what is best for our students is always at the center of our work and our decisions. More Mainers are being vaccinated. The governor is loosening restrictions on indoor and outdoor gatherings and travel. Androscoggin County remains in a green designation. The national CDC has changed the 6-foot distancing to 3 feet in schools. That part is all hopeful. At the same time, it is important to remember that we are in a pandemic that will continue to impact our lives. The district has been monitoring the changes and has responded by putting together the reentry team, reassessing space in each of our schools, and moving classroom furniture into storage containers to optimize space. Principals have worked with their leadership teams and staff to determine what is possible in terms of increased in-person time. We need to do the work to find out if more in-person time was feasible with the continued requirement of 3 feet spacing while all masks are on and 6-foot spacing when a mask comes off. This means principals and staff will be orchestrating movement to larger spaces for breakfast and lunch. We have focused on plans that are realistic, safe, and sustainable. The next step was to begin to collect parent feedback. There were 681 responses to the survey we sent to parents about a week ago. The goals of that survey were, 1, to let parents know what conditions may need to be in place in order to increase in-person time, and 2, to learn if and how many parents would have their children attend increased in-person time with those articulated conditions in place. What we learned from that survey was that a large majority of the 681 parents who responded told us their children would attend increased in-person time. Last Thursday at the school board meeting, principals shared their proposals for increased in-person time at each school. I shared that it is important to remember 2 things related to these proposals. First, each principal's proposal is based on the size of his or her school and the number of students in that space. There is no consistent model for increasing in-person instruction that can be implemented in every school. Each proposal is designed specific to the students in space in that school. And 2, the proposals are also based on the hope that we can overcome some large barriers still before us. One of those barriers is transportation. We are still operating under the 1 student per seat requirement, with the exception being that family members can sit together. If many of our families are unable to help us by transporting their students, we will not be able to move forward with some of these proposals. We will need to go back to the drawing board. Another barrier is related to the arrival of the additional desks, seats, and plexiglass dividers that we have ordered. We must have these supplies in order to implement the proposals. As we work through the possibility of increasing in-person time for our students, I am hearing a number of concerns. That this is so much change with so few weeks left in the school year, that changing routines for children, families, and staff will be disruptive, that changing some students' teachers at this late date is not a practice we would normally support, and that our country may be heading toward a 4th wave of a COVID-19 surge as variants become more prevalent and we loosen restrictions. I am also hearing concerns about the social well-being and mental health of our students because they are not in school except for 2 days a week. I'm hearing that students are struggling, some of them mightily, with remote learning. And parents are sharing with me worries about their children's education this year and beyond. We are clearly divided in our perspective related to this pandemic and increasing in-person time. Everyone's concerns are valid. All of these opposing concerns are completely valid. Change is difficult. The pandemic continues to take its toll on all of us. And yes, we will be 8 months into the school year when we make these changes, if we are able to make them, once we get over the barriers of transportation and the furniture and supplies. At the same time, we know that overall in-person instruction is what is best for our students. And it appears, according to the most recent survey, to be that the vast majority of our parents want increased in-person time. We also know that we don't know what next fall will look like. So any increased in-person instruction we can provide, even for 6 weeks this spring, will benefit our students. To have our students in school more often will be a benefit to them. It is one thing to plan carefully and thoroughly as we are doing. It is another thing to live the experience. Increasing in-person time this spring will most definitely support our students for this year. And it will help us learn what is working, what can work, and what we need to consider changing. And those things will support us as we plan for next fall. Because at this point, we don't know what next fall will look like. We are all hoping there will be no restrictions and we can have all students back. But there is also a chance, a very real chance, that we will have the distancing requirement firmly in place. So will positive cases continue to rise? Will we end up with more students and staff in quarantine? We don't know. What we do know is that we can expect constant change as long as we are living in a pandemic. We also know that to date, school environments are safer than those in the general public because we are consistently abiding by the health and safety measures. It is time now to send our families a second survey that outlines specifics in our proposals for increased in-person time. Again, we still have some large barriers to overcome before we could implement these proposals, and we need to hear from you. You will be receiving the second survey today. Please do take the time to complete it, as we need to hear from as many parents as we possibly can. This survey data will be included in our planning, and I will let you know the results. Thank you for your continued support, for working with us, for communicating with us, and for filling out these surveys so that we hear parent voice in all of our planning. Thank you.